All right, it is Sunday, December 19th, 2021. And I'm feeling great on a Sunday morning because we are 6-0 with a push in our last $7.99 daily best plays on BrockPage.com. And if you want to see which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for a membership on my website at BrockPage.com. And the good news is, if you want to access today's $1.99 daily best play, it's only going to cost you just $1.99. Link for that pick is in the description section below. The Titans take on the Steelers, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Pittsburgh's -1.5, totals 42. The Steelers have gotten the W in just one out of their last 5 ball games, 2-5 against the spread at Heinz Field. The Steelers are in the bottom 5 in rush yards per contest. They're gaining only 88 yards a game on the ground. Meanwhile, defensively, the Steelers are in the bottom 3 in stopping the run as well. They're allowing over 370 yards of total offense per game. They're taking on a Tennessee team who won 7 out of their last 9, and they successfully covered the point spread in 67% of those contests. The Titans are also 4-2 straight up when traveling, and they lead the NFL in rush yards per game away from home. Now, defensively, these guys also have a top 3 rush defense. Harold Landry has 63 tackles and 11 sacks on the season. He's also got 13 tackles for loss. Meanwhile, Kevin Byard has 5 interceptions from the secondary and 13 PBUs. Now, injury-wise, Saffold and Jenkins are out. Long, Murchison, Tart, and Carter, they're sitting this one out as well. When it comes to the total in this one, Tennessee's 5-1 of the over on the road this year, 70% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, the Steelers saw 3 out of their last 4 ball games get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Tennessee plus 1.5 over 42. Next matchup, it is going to be Panthers. Panthers versus the Bills. 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Buffalo's -14, totals 44. But for a team laying 2 touchdowns in this spot here, we are looking at a Bills club who failed to cover in 6 out of their last 8 ball games. They also went just 1-3 straight up in their last 4 as well. Buffalo's got themselves a losing record against the spread on their home field. They're also in the bottom 10 in stopping the run at home as well. They're taking on a Carolina team who covered the point spread in 3 out of their last 6 road games, despite their recent struggles. As a matter of fact, the Panthers have the #1 pass defense in the entire NFL. They're also allowing only 293 total yards per game. Hassan Reddick has 10.5 sacks on the season, a dozen tackles for loss, and 58 total tackles on the year. Meanwhile, Jeremy Chin has 91 tackles and 4 PDs out of that secondary. When it comes to the injury report in this one, Boye is out. Miller is questionable. Meanwhile, for Buffalo, Sanders is out. Jones and Sweeney, they are listed as questionable for them as well. And when it comes to the total in this one, Buffalo saw 2 out of their last 3 ball games fall under the line. 4-2 to the under this season at home. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the underdog Carolina Panthers plus 14 under 44. Next matchup, it is going to be Jets versus the Dolphins, 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff. Miami's -10, totals 41.5. The Dolphins are on a 5-game winning streak, 6-0 against the number in their last 6 straight as well. The Fins currently lead the NFL in fewest yards allowed per play from scrimmage. And of course, Jalen Phillips, he currently has 8.5 sacks on the season, 36 total tackles, and 7 TFLs for the linebacker. Meanwhile, Jerome Baker, he also has 66 tackles and 3 PDs as well. Now, the Dolphins are taking on a New York Jets team who lost 7 out of their last 9 ball games. And in addition to that, they successfully covered the point spread just twice during that span. Now, the Jets are just 1-5 on the road this season, and they allow more points per contest away from home than any other team in the NFL. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, this Jets offense is in the bottom 3 in offensive yards per play on the road. Now, injury-wise, Croft and Walker are questionable. Fant is doubtful. Meanwhile, for Miami, Shaheen and Gaskin are questionable for them. And when it comes to the total on this one, Miami's 5-1 of the under in their last 6 outings. New York saw 3 out of their last 4 fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Miami -10, under 41.5. Next contest, Cardinals, Lions, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Arizona's -13, totals 47. The Cards have won 7 out of their last 10 ball games, 70% against the number during that stretch. And even better than that, Arizona's currently undefeated on the road. And they successfully covered the point spread in all 7 of those road victories. The Cards are currently in the top 3 in the NFL in road scoring. Kyler Murray's thrown for nearly 2,800 yards, and he's also completing 72% of his passes. Meanwhile, defensively, the Cards are in the top 3 in fewest points allowed per contest when traveling. Now, Marcus Golden, he has double-digit sacks on the season, along with 4 forced fumbles. They're taking on a Detroit team who's in the bottom 3 in points allowed per contest at home. Meanwhile, offensively, the Lions are also in the bottom 3 in offensive yards per play from scrimmage. Now, injury-wise, Anzalone, Reeves-Maybin, Walker, and Jackson are questionable. Swift and Okwara are out. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, Ertz and Edmonds are questionable for them. When it comes to the total in this one, Arizona could potentially put this one over the number themselves. They also saw 4 out of their last 5 ball games get over the line. Meanwhile, Detroit saw their last 2 straight get over the posted total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Arizona -13, over 47. Next matchup, Texans, Jaguars, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Jacksonville's -4.5, totals 39. And for a team laying 4.5 in this spot here, the Jags have been pretty bad against the number. And as a matter of fact, Jacksonville failed to cover the point spread in their last 4 straight. 2-5 against the spread on their home field this year as well. Jacksonville's currently in the bottom 3 in home scoring, bottom 10 in yards allowed per play. They're taking on a Houston team who covered the number against the likes of Tennessee, LA Rams, and New England this season. As a matter of fact, that cover against Tennessee, that was actually a 9-point outright victory. Now, Houston, they don't do a whole lot right either. I'm not going to deny that. Having said that, though, they are 2-2 in divisional play this year, which is much better than an 0-4 Jacksonville record against the AFC South. Now, Jonathan Grenard has 8 sacks on the season, couple of forced fumbles, and 9 TFLs. Meanwhile, Camus Grugier-Hill has 94 tackles, along with a pair of forced fumbles. Houston successfully covered the number in 4 out of their last 6 divisional games, dating back to last season. They're also 5-2 against the number in their last 7 meetings with the Jags. So if you're into historical trends, certainly think about that. Now, injury-wise, Burkhead and Reed are out. Johnson, Pierre-Louis, they are questionable. Meanwhile, for Jacksonville, Hyde is out. Norwell and Jack are questionable. The Jags are 6-1 to the under at home, 11-2 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, for Houston, they went 5-1 to the under in their contest away from home themselves. I'm going to lean toward Houston +4.5, under 39. Next matchup, Cowboys, Giants, 1 p.m. East. Dallas is minus 11.5, totals 44. But as good as Dallas has been, this is a mighty big number for a divisional road game, no matter what the current records are. Dallas has, they've also lost 3 out of their last 6 ball games, and they failed to cover 3 times during that stretch. Smith is out. Pollard and Wilson are questionable. This Cowboy defense is in the bottom 10 in stopping the pass, bottom 10 in defensive yards per play. They're taking on a Giants team who's actually playing .500 football at MetLife Stadium. The G-Men also went 4-3 against the number in their last 7. And they rank in the top 5 in the NFL in fewest home points allowed. Xavier McKinney has 5 interceptions on the season, 70 tackles for the safety. Meanwhile, Azeez Ojulari has 7.5 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. The G-Men have a top 10 pass defense at home, and they're also in the top 10 in defensive yards per play. Now, Williams, Johnson, and Breedson are questionable. Daniel Jones is out. The Giants are 7-1 to the under in their last 8 ball games, 6-0 to the under in the Meadowlands. Meanwhile, Dallas saw 5 out of their last 7 road games fall under the total themselves. Give me the Giants plus 11.5, under 44. Next game, Falcons, 49ers, 4:05 Eastern start time. San Francisco's minus 9, totals 47.5. Despite a good stretch of games here recently for San Francisco, they actually play their worst football at Levi's Stadium. 2-4 straight up on their home field. 2-4 against the spread in those home games. The San Francisco defense is in the bottom 3 in the NFL in first quarter points allowed at home. The Niners are also in the bottom 10 in fourth quarter scoring at home as well. Hurst, Greenlaw, and Mitchell, they are out. Alshire is doubtful. They're taking on an Atlanta team who won 2 out of their last 3 themselves, and they actually play really well on the road. Atlanta's currently 5-2 when traveling this season, and they successfully covered the point spread 5 times during that span. The Falcons are currently in the top 10 in second quarter scoring away from home. Matt Ryan's thrown for over 3,100 yards on the year. When it comes to the injury report, Fowler and Ogundeji are questionable. And when it comes to the total, the Falcons are 4-3 to the over on the road. San Francisco saw 5 out of their last 8 get over the line themselves. The Niners are also 4-2 to the over at Levi's Stadium. I'm going to lean toward Atlanta plus 9, over 47.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Bengals, Broncos, 4:05 Eastern kickoff. Denver's minus 2.5, totals 44. But despite being favored in this one, the Broncos are currently in the bottom 10 in offensive passing at home. The Broncos' leading receivers barely averaging 50 yards receiving a game. Denver's also lost 5 out of their last 8 ball games against AFC competition. They're taking on a Cincinnati team who plays their best football on the road. They're 4-2 straight up when traveling, 4-2 against the spread in those road games. The Bengals currently lead the NFL in stopping the run on the road. They're also in the top 3 in fewest road points allowed. Trey Hendrickson has 12.5 sacks on the season, 9 TFLs, and 3 forced fumbles for the linemen. Meanwhile, Von Bell has 81 tackles and 3 forced fumbles himself. Cincinnati's in the top 10 in defensive yards per play away from home. When it comes to the injury report, Prince and Wilson are out. Bailey and Shelvin are questionable. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, Cincinnati's 4-2 to the under when traveling. Denver's 5-2 to the under in the Mile High City. The Broncos are also 10-3 to the under for the entire year. I'm going to lean towards Cincinnati plus 2.5. Under 44. Next matchup, Packers, Ravens, 4:25 East. Green Bay is minus 7, numbers 44.5. But as good as the Packers have been, all 3 of their losses this season did come on the road. As a matter of fact, the Pack currently ranks in the bottom 5 in first quarter scoring away from home. Meanwhile, defensively on the other side of the football, as good as they've been, This Packer defense has struggled in certain areas on the road as well. Green Bay's in the bottom 10 in first quarter points allowed away from home. Bottom 10 in fourth quarter points allowed in that same category. They're taking on a banged-up Baltimore team who's still 5-1 straight up on their home field. The Ravens are in the top 10 in home scoring, and they currently lead the NFL in rush yards per game in front of their home crowd. Now, defensively, the Ravens also have the number one rush defense. Patrick Queen has 70 tackles on this season, a couple of sacks for the linebacker. Meanwhile, Brandon Stevens has 60 tackles himself. Baltimore's in the top 10 in fewest fourth quarter points allowed at home. And when it comes to the injury report, Lamar Jackson is battling an ankle injury. Keep an eye on his status. Meanwhile, Villanueva, Ricard, Boyle, Macari, and Phillips are questionable. Calais Campbell has also been downgraded to doubtful. Meanwhile, for Green Bay, Bakhtiari and Turner are out. St. Brown is doubtful, and Daphne won't play either. When it comes to the scoring, Green Bay's last three straight did get over the posted number. Meanwhile, Baltimore's 4-2 to the over in the Inner Harbor. I'm going to lean toward Baltimore +7, over 44.5. And with that, guys, now it's time for our next and final matchup. Saints versus the Bucs, 8:20 Eastern kickoff. Tampa Bay's -11.5, totals 46. The Bucs are a perfect 6-0 at Raymond James Stadium, 5-1 against the number in those home games. Tampa Bay currently leads the league in scoring and passing. Tom Brady's thrown for over 4,100 yards and 36 touchdowns. His favorite target's been Chris Godwin, who has 92 grabs for over 1,000 yards and 5 scores. And speaking of scoring, Mike Evans, he's got himself 11 touchdown grabs on the year. Tampa's currently leading the NFL in offensive yards per play at home. They're taking on a depleted Saints team who lost 5 out of their last 6. And they're not going to have head coach Sean Payton on the sidelines. The Saints are also in the bottom 5 in the NFL in passing the football. Bottom 10 in offensive yards per play on the road. Jordan, Armstead, Montgomery, Ramczyk, Pasagnan, and Harris, they are out. Werner, Troutman, Humphrey, Ellis, and Ingram are questionable. Meanwhile, for Tampa Bay, on the other side of things, Brown and Edwards are still out. Sherman is doubtful. Also keep an eye on Antoine Winfield as he's battling a foot injury. Total-wise, the Bucs are 4-2 to the over in Tampa. They also went 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with the Saints. I'm going to lean toward Tampa Bay, -11.5. over 46. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we are 6-0 with a push in our last 7 $1.99 daily best plays. I like Tennessee +1.5 over 42. Carolina +14 under 44. Miami -10 under 41.5. Arizona -13 over 47. Houston +4.5 under 39. New York Giants +11.5 under 44. Atlanta +9 over 47.5. Cincinnati +2.5 under 44. Baltimore +7 over 44.5. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that if you want to access today's $1.99 daily best play on brockpage.com, link for that pick is in the description section below. I'm going to lean toward Tampa Bay -11.5 over 46. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. If you guys do end up getting a membership here today on that website, just keep in mind, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, guys, happy Sunday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.